Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 33 of the Infuse Your Future podcast. Today we have Nancy Milburn, and she's been a dog trainer for over 40 years. She's the owner of a company called The Logical Dog, and she's still developed a method called pattern replacement, which is a very humane, positive reinforcement training method for dogs. In addition to being a dog trainer, she now also teaches other people how to train dogs using her method. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Infuse Your Future podcast, where we bring together people and ideas who make the world a better place. I'm your host, Dr. C. Today, I have with me Nancy Milburn. She's been a dog trainer for over 40 years, and now she focuses on mentoring other young dog trainers to teach them the great method that she developed over her years. So I'd love to introduce her. Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you? So happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So I understand you have a pretty cool method of training dogs that's very humane and kind and gets good results. So would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, certainly. I've named my new dog training pattern replacement. Everybody has a pattern how they do things, and quite often you're stuck in the same pattern doing the same thing. Like, let's say your dog pulls you down the street. You let your dog pull you down the street. So change the pattern of what's happening, and that's what I can help you with. I can show you different ways and different patterns that you can use to change not only your dog's behavior, but your behavior. And if you change your behavior towards your dog, the dog will change in response.
Yeah, so give us an example. Say, for instance, you do have a dog that pulls you down the street, takes you for a walk instead of the other way around.
Well,
I know some people, they get these choke collars or these electric shock collars or other like pretty inhumane things. So how are you so successful at it?
well, the best way is to start totally from the beginning. So take your dog into a secure area, even the inside of your house where they can't get away. Start teaching them to walk off leash so that you have a toy or food and you hold it at the dog's nose. If you have a little dog, you can put it in a pair of tongs and hold it down to their nose. And then you walk around the house with the dog following you. And every once in a while, you give them either the toy or the food. Then you take it outside and do it in an enclosed area again, so they walk away. Then is the time to put on the leash. Then they're not pulling at all. So then when you take them outside, you still have your lure, as they say, and you very frequently give them the feedback they're looking for, which is you look at them, so tell them that they're a good dog, and you give them the food, but only if they're looking at you. Then if that's not working, but you must do this first, you must do it in the house first, then what you do is as they pull, you would say in a voice to the dog, saying, well, if you're going to pull me, we're not going to walk, we're going to go back home, and turn around and go home. And then if they pull towards home, well, if you're going to pull me this way, I'm going to go the other way. And you turn around and go the other way. And fairly soon the dog learns that pulling doesn't get him to where he wants to go. Only walking on a loose leash does. And that is very, very quick to do that. Very quick. And one of the best, talking about pattern replacement, most dogs jump up when you come into the door. They come in and they jump on you, they jump on visitors, and sometimes when you're walking them, they jump on other people on the street. This is very distressing to people. They don't like it. And the traditional way is to turn your back and ignore the dog because the dog is looking for attention. Well, yes, it does work. It can take a long time. And in the meantime, your back is getting scratched, your legs are getting scratched, and it takes a long time. And most people don't stand still. They're yelling at the dog, oh, get down, off, go away. What doesn't work. So what I suggest that you do is that at the door, you keep a bowl of treats. As the dog is rushing to you, this is before they jump. Before they jump, you throw the treats at their face. So they bounce all over the floor. Now you've got a dog with head down, 4 feet on the floor, because they're looking for the treats. And they haven't jumped. So they're rewarded for not jumping. Then you can say, good dog. And when they're finished doing all the chicken feed round, where they going around searching for all the little bits, then you give them a command like sit and another treat. And it doesn't take very long before you don't have to throw, but that you just have one cookie in your hand and the dog comes and sits. So they get good dog, petted, they're looking for attention, they get the petting, they get the food, everything's good, and then you can walk past them and they're fine. And that's what I call a pattern replacement. Do something that the dog wants. Think of what the dog likes, what they want to happen, why they are doing whatever they're doing, and then figure out a way of changing the environment that the dog will do what you want it to do. And actually, if you do this, the dog all of a sudden starts looking for you for like, what's next, boss? What's next? Because you're the most exciting thing that's going to happen. So
That sounds great. That sounds great. And I understand that you're quite a successful dog trainer. So I'm wondering,
yeah,
so how did you get into dogs and dog training, and what made you love dogs so much?
well, I have always loved animals ever since I was a child. I have a picture on my website that shows me at 8 years old and with my best girlfriend, and she's holding a baby, which I think is probably my little brother, and I'm holding the dog. So even at a young age, and I've always been able to train the dogs. All the animals that come into our house were trained in one way or another, and I just have a rapport with them. Most dogs obey me within 2 or 3 minutes of me meeting them because I give them what they want. And when I was a young mother with 2 little children, we got a dog for the children. And I sent the dog and my eldest son to obedience school, thinking that perhaps it would do them both some good. But of course, I had to drive him there and sit and watch. Then I knew that my son wouldn't practice during the week because that's what children do. They don't want to practice, and it's boring to do the sit and the down and the sit. So during the week, when my son was at school, I would practice with the dog to make sure, because I wanted both the dog and my son to be successful when they had the test at the end. And it was successful that my son did pass the test with the dog. But I got interested in the club and talking to other people at the club. And just then, agility was starting. And it was in England when they were just starting the agility back in the 70s. It was something that they did in between the horse shows, just something to fill in time. And people started competing, but back then they did not know that border collies would excel at agility. They just really excel. So I was competing against labs, German shepherds, golden retrievers, and with my border collie, and he was winning, and like by a lot. so, so so people started asking me to help them train their dogs because they thought I was doing something extra special, but it turned out I just had a border collie. But anyway, that's how I got into it. I got into training with the club, and then I went off on my own to train on my own. And then I started going to seminars with various different animal behaviors to learn the ins and outs of dog behavior so that I could expand my knowledge and then disseminate it to my customers.
What's your favorite dog breed?
Oh, well, I really like them all. I really do. But the border collies, I think because I had this one, I do like the collies. they're well known to be the smartest dogs. So they're quite easy. You get to do so many things. There is a border collie who knew 1,000 different names for toys and stuff. That I've just most of my border collies knew somewhere between 200 and 300 commands, and they were just wonderful to work at. But if you have a border collie and you don't give it something to do, then you have the worst dog of it that you can have, because they find things to do, and it's usually things that you don't want, like destroying your house. And they can be hard to change from that. Once they've decided what their job is, they can be very hard to change. So it's sort of a love-hate relationship with border collies. Everything else is fine. I mean, I've trained everything from the great big mastiffs to the tiny little chihuahuas. They all train the same, but with slight variations because of the difference of size. One of the things that I wish people would do is research the breed before they purchase, or just go to rescues, because rescues are wonderful. And you can often get a purebred at rescue too. But people buy a dog because of the perceived persona of the dog. A lot of people buy these big mastiffs or protection breeds that are livestock protection breeds. And if they're in a livestock protection situation, they're great. But in a household, it can be a disaster, because they become very protective. They're very strong, very self-willed, and they can be difficult to train because they have been bred to be independent out in the fields. I mean, they have to make their own decisions when they're protecting the livestock. So they're not good in a confined area. And a lot of people get them because they're great big things, and people want the great big hairy dog. And also people like to get a dog who extends their personality. They don't feel so comfortable, that their little their personality is such that they feel that they want a big dog, so people are afraid of them because they don't have the confidence. They have low self-esteem, and they buy a big dog. When I see a man walking a little dog, like a Chihuahua or Boston Terrier, or one of these small dogs, I know that that man has a lot of self-confidence.
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes.
I always wondered why people get these giant dogs. Because, I mean, the bigger the dog, the more they eat, and the more they eat, the more they process. So the more you have to clean up.
Actually, there's a solution for that. I should tell you the story of how I got into this. My son, who is now 50, good Lord, I have a 50-year-old son. Like, I'm not young anymore. He was hyperactive attention deficit. That's what I know now. Back then, no one knew what it was. And I would go to the doctor and try and figure out what the heck is wrong with this child. And they gave me Valium because I'm an hysterical mother. Well, no. And then I was reading a magazine from California that was explaining about how food can affect behavior. And I looked at this and I thought, well, this sounds like the behavior of my son. And there was an elimination diet in the article. So I put him on the diet and he became wonderful. And that's basics of the story. So fast forward to like 18, 19 years later, when he's leaving home and I have a dog. We fed him scraps, but our scraps are healthy scraps because I'd been making everything myself because of my son. And then he left home. So I thought, well, there's just me and the dog now. So I'm not going to be making all this stuff just for me and the dog. A lot of work. So we'll go back to dog food. And all of a sudden the dog his skin became oily. His coat became harsh. His teeth all of a sudden got tartar on. He started showing signs of arthritis, getting up, very stiff getting up. And I'm thinking, oh, well, he's getting old and whatever. And then someone gave me a book called To Give Your Dog a Bone. And it was all about feeding them naturally what they would eat in the wild, which is mainly raw meat, raw, pardon me, raw meat, raw bones, and raw vegetables. And this struck a chord because it was exactly what I was giving to my son. Apart from I wasn't giving him raw meat, I was giving him meat, vegetables, and uh, good stuff that I made myself, breads and stuff that I made myself. So I started feeding the dog. This changed over to a raw diet. All his symptoms disappeared. And he lived to be 16 and a half, which was a big age for a border collie.
Yeah.
And then one of the benefits of feeding your dog raw is that the poop, they eat much less because it's nutrient dense. My 50-pound dog eats 2 cups a day of raw food, which is not very much. And then the poop is much less. And also because of the bone content in it, it goes to a white powder within about 3 weeks and just disappears. You don't have this wet slime on the lawn that you have from a regular dog. They have to eat a lot to get the amount of nutrition that they need. And a lot of the dog foods are just fillers, just a lot of fillers. All this corn, rice, soy, beet pulp, all this is just fillers. So that has to go through and out the other end. And if you feed them just bones and meat and raw vegetables, then they use it all, and the poop is very, very small. So they have a lot of health problems you don't get. I've had over about 12 dogs over the years, different dogs, and since I started this regime, not one dog has had cancer. Not one dog has gone deaf. Not one dog has gone blind. Not one dog has had heart disease. Every single dog, there were 2 in the thing that didn't survive to 16, 17, 18, 19. More that's I've had them live to 19. And I don't have small dogs. I have 55 pounds and bigger usually. And the 2 that died, one died of an aneurysm. He had a brain aneurysm, and the other one died of a thing called blastomatosis, which is a fungal infection, which was rampant where we were living, and it killed several people as well in the area that we were in. But those were the only 2 that died. And the normal degenerative diseases, you hear of dogs getting diabetes. Well, that just doesn't happen on raw diet because there is no sugar.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth with these raw diets because I just don't know how to do it. I've always heard that you don't give dogs bones because they can splinter and hurt their intestines.
They can if they're cooked. But in the woods,
so you can give them raw bones.
Absolutely. Oh. Think about a wolf. I mean, they don't always just eat deer and stuff. They'll eat anything they can catch, including birds. So if they eat a bird, the only thing that they leave is the beak and the feathers. They eat everything else.
What about the raw food that we get at the grocery store? Is that still safe to give a dog? Like, say you just go and buy some frozen chicken or even some chicken that's frozen.
I give my dog. I usually buy the chicken wings, and I eat the nice meaty stuff myself. I cook that up and give the tips to the dog raw.
Oh, okay.
Raw.
Okay.
And then a lot of the food that you buy at the pet stores, that's the raw food, they've ground it. They've ground the bones and everything into it, so it's all little pieces as well. That is not necessary, but a lot of people feel that they don't want to give a dog a bone because it's been for years and years. You've been told don't give your dog bones, and that's because they do splinter if they are cooked. And they can really hurt themselves quite a lot.
And you don't have to worry about salmonella poisoning or anything like that, giving them raw chicken or raw eggs.
I can guarantee that every chicken that I've ever given my dog has got salmonella in it, just because it is. And just think of this as common sense. They eat poop. Oh.
So true. So true.
How many dogs eat poop and don't have any problem eating poop? They love cat poop. So, kitty box
You would
country.
just feed them raw vegetables with some raw meat. And does it matter what kind of meat? Can you give them beef and chicken and turkey?
Well, the only thing about you have to watch with pork because trichinosis is in pork. So I don't really give them pork, but I do beef and mainly beef, chicken, turkey, like the turkey dinner that we'll be having. The turkey neck, I take that out, chop it into several pieces, and he gets a piece every day, right? So for the turkey. And one of the things about giving necks is that it cleans the teeth. Almost in all the, if you have a dog with tartar on its teeth and you give it a chicken neck or a turkey neck, if it's a bigger dog, the teeth are cleaned when it's finished. It's got all the tartar's gone.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I am going to go by, does it have to be a turkey neck or
chicken neck will work. Depend, if you've got a larger dog, so either turkey or chicken. If you're giving it a chicken neck, then I would give it 2 or 3. A turkey neck, you would cut it into maybe three, give it one each. So yeah, it works, and they'd love them. But if your dog is on kibble and hasn't had any raw food, giving it raw food can give it diarrhea. So what you would do is give it digestive bacteria, probiotics, before you give it the raw food the very first time. After you've given it raw food for 2 or 3 days, then you don't need to do that anymore because the digestive bacteria built up in their intestines. They just need the correct bacteria to cope with the raw food to start off with. And it's better to do that rather than have diarrhea. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, so just give them the acidophilus. And acidophilus lactobacillus bifidus. I know I just spoke another language. I am very, very into alternative medicine, both for myself and for my animals. I had an incident when I was 40 years old, where I had a autoimmune disease, which no one could diagnose. They didn't know what it was. I was sent to 3 different specialists. Every specialist diagnosed me with his specialty, and no one could help me. I was in a wheelchair, and I happened to come across friend of mine was telling me about how high quality supplements can help you and feel better and stuff. So I tried them and I cured myself. And then when I went back to the doctor to say, hey, look, I'm good. I'm out of the wheelchair. I'm wonderful. I can work again, all this stuff. He said he wasn't surprised that high quality supplements helped me. And I asked him why. He didn't tell me. And he said, because his insurance company wouldn't let him, because he hadn't been trained in nutrition. So I said to him, would you let me live in a wheelchair for the rest of my life because your insurance company told you so? And I walked out of the office and I never went back.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I'm a big believer in supplements. Big believer in supplements.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of my patients actually get them because they can be kind of expensive, but
there were times when I was, do I pay the electricity bill or do I buy my supplements? There were times because they are expensive, and I agree, but they do really, really help. And I think it's because our food is being denatured. We don't get.
I think you're expensive and it's also not regulated. So unless you're really into it, you don't know which supplements are legitimate and which ones are full of fillers and really aren't that great.
Yes, you need the ones that are being either peer reviewed or independent laboratory tested. I tend to buy the ones that are chelated, so that the amino acid is around the mineral, so that it's more absorbable. And I mean, I don't know whether people say that I look younger because I'll be 75 this year. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I'm and one of the things I don't know whether this is part of eating the right foods and doing supplements, but all my family suffered terribly with arthritis, and I don't have any, none. I'm perfectly I can perfect hands and whatever, no swelling, nothing. I can walk for miles and miles. Don't ask me to run. I can walk for miles and
Wow. How
miles.
many supplements do you take?
I take a mineral supplement, the chelated mineral supplement, and I take a high quality vitamin supplement as well. And then I tweak with echinacea and oregano oil and different things. Sometimes I take extra vitamin C. Depends on what I'm doing, right? If I'm in a high stress time, I'll take some more stress relieving stuff. But mainly my go-to is the chelated minerals and a vitamin. I don't do the mix because I find that the ones that are mixed, the vitamins and minerals together, are lower quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I buy them from a company that is not a very well-known company. But
Now, do you also give supplements to your dogs?
I have done, but not usually because they're getting what they need in the food, right? Mm-hmm. So they really don't need. If they're into high stress, I'll give them extra vitamin C because although they make their own vitamin C, dogs make their own vitamin C. They can use more if they're in a high stress situation. Like when we're traveling, I give them a supplement because every day we're in a different location, and that's stressful for me as well.
So for sure,
finding a hotel that takes dog, because we travel with our dog and cat.
Mm-hmm.
So finding a place that will allow a dog and cat on our travels can be a little bit stressful.
Now, do you feed a raw diet to your cat as well?
Yes, but she sometimes won't eat it. She likes, I feed her raw. And what she does is she'll eat some of the dog food, which is not necessarily good because it doesn't have the taurine. Dog food, taurine
have what in it?
Taurine is a hormone, and cats do not make their own. Dogs make their own, but cats do not. And because they are a carnivore, true carnivore, and they get it from the heart and liver of their prey. So they need to have either heart or liver in their diet raw because cooking gets rid of the taurine. When they first started making cat food, commercial cat food, cats were dying. People didn't know why. And that's because it was all cooked and there was no taurine in it. So they had all cat food, if you look on the side of it, has an added taurine. She will eat the dog food, but there isn't any taurine in it, not unless I put liver and stuff in it. So she will eat it occasionally, but then she's very fussy because she'll eat that for a bit, and then she wants cat food for a bit, then she wants dry cat food for a bit, and then she'll go back to the raw food. So being a mom, you cater to what they will eat.
Right.
I should be strong.
So what would be a typical raw diet that you would feed your dog? And would you do it twice a day or just once a day?
It's up to you. I feed twice a day because that's what I've always done. Doesn't matter. You can feed once a day. There is a section of the raw food people who advocate having one day of not feeding them, like to give their stomach a rest as they would do in the wild, because they would gorge and then not eat for several days. I can't do that. I just can't not eat and not feed them. So normally your proportions are 50% meat and bone. No, sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, 50% meat, 25% bone, and 25% vegetables, and supplements if you want to add the supplements.
And if somebody's out there and wants to switch to this diet, I know you said feed the probiotics first. Could you introduce a little bit of raw meat with the probiotic
sure.
and the kibble?
Yeah, you can do it gradually. Yeah, you can do it gradually. And what you do is you do a quarter cup for every 10 pounds of weight. So if your dog is 40 pounds, you give them 1 cup a day.
What about the skin, the animal skin? That's fine too?
Well, yes, of course. The dog would eat everything.
Yeah.
So you can eat it. You just have to be aware that in the wild, the food that they would be eating tends to be lean. There's not a lot of fat on it. So the food that you get in the grocery store has been fed commercially and tends to be a little bit fattier. So you need to remove the fat, or most of the fat if you can. Yeah. Depends on what it is. Like when the chickens come, they have a pad of fat, and you remove that and not give it.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Because, they can get, if they have too much fat, they can get something called pancreatitis, which is not good.
Right.
So, and my attitude to dog food is that my dogs, they eat the raw food, but they don't eat just the raw food. They eat the scraps from the table, but I have healthy scraps, right? I don't eat a lot of processed food, so let's say I cook some broccoli. So the big end of the broccoli that you would normally cut off, and I'm going to eat the nice tender florets, but the big end, you put it into the dog bowl. Now, if they'll eat it whole, that's great, but you put it through a food processor and make it into small bits, and then you can mix it with the food, and then they eat it. So things like yam skins are good. You can, not so much potato because it's full of starch, but yam skins, the bottoms of broccoli, the carrot peelings, things like that you can use for the dog food, right?
And the boiled is okay, because I know you were talking about feeding raw vegetables, but they'll get just as much nutrition with the boiled.
If you include the water that they're boiled in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know my dog loves broccoli.
Good.
So sometimes I'll boil her broccoli and carrots, and she loves it.
Yeah, that's it depends on your dog, right? Some dogs, I find that the rescue dogs tend to eat better, but when you have a dog from a puppy and you fed it, my present dog I've had from a puppy, and he can be fussy because he's never missed a meal, and he's always had the good stuff. So you give him something a little off, like a little not quite the high quality, and he turns up his nose like, well, I'm not going to eat that, right? So,
well, that brings up another question: is, if you're feeding your dog a high quality diet, and you have to go out of town and leave them with someone else or even a boarder.
Well, what I do, because it's never for a long time, I've gone on cruises and things and had to leave the dog behind. So I change them back to kibble, and I buy the highest quality kibble I can. Like I'm paying, $150 a bag at least for the kibble. And because the more you pay, the less fillers in it. And then I give it to the people to give him, and he loves it. Of course, it's like candy, like, because he never gets So it's like feeding candy. So he loves kibble. And I give that to the person who's going to look after him. And it's only for a couple of weeks. It's not going to hurt him for a couple of weeks. Just like if you ate, ate nothing for like McDonald's for a week, you wouldn't be great at the end of it, but I mean, you're not gonna die from it. So,
Right.
and then you gradually change it back to the good stuff. Come back. So it does for convenience. And like when we're traveling, I do change them to kibble because it's hard to keep the food cold enough for it not to go bad. So when we travel, and I'm taking it with us, then we do use the kibble. Yes, but again, highest quality you can buy. Just because it says on the bag 100% nutritionally complete doesn't mean that it is.
Oh yeah. There's so many, marketing ploys. You have no idea what you're buying half the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I know in the beginning you said you were a dog trainer. Now, are you still personally training people's dogs?
I do. I do have an online business. I don't do a huge amount, but I do more of mentoring for the young dog trainers, trying to get them to realize that you don't have to use force. You don't have to use corrections. Back in the day when I first started, corrections were it. There was no food and it was a choke chain, and people just corrected and petted, and that was it. And I was teaching dog training that way, and I found that people weren't using the corrections in the right way. So I went to just a flat collar because the choke chain was used incorrectly. Then they weren't using the collar and the leash correctly. Well, then I went to no collar, and that's how I am now, is no collar. We put a collar and leash on when they're out in the wide world. And in my classes, we do have a collar and leash on them, but the people are not allowed to touch the leash. The leash is on the ground. They're allowed to step on the leash if their dog decides to leave. If they haven't worked hard enough to keep their dog beside them without hanging onto the leash, then they're allowed to step on it so the dog doesn't leave, and so until they can learn how to keep their dog beside you. But when I have a class, the dogs are all have leashes on the ground, and then I make the people walk past all the other dogs with their dog, and nobody interacts with each other. They're all looking at their owners, and the leashes are on the ground. So this teaches the owners that they don't have to use the leash. The leash is there as a safety tool, just in case. Plus the fact that if you're out and about, most places have a leash law that the dogs have to be on leash.
Nice. If people want to work with you or ask you some questions, how do they get in touch with you?
Your best bet is to go I have a couple of websites, but you can also email me at nancy@doglogic.ca.
All right.
And in fact, I have an offer for your listeners. If you email me at nancy@doglogic.ca, I will send you the first 10 chapters of my book.
Nice.
On a PDF, right?
Yeah. What's the name of your book?
Trick Your Dog into Obedience. So
Trick Your Dog into Obedience.
Yes. Training your dog like you would train a trick. If you train your dog to shake a paw, then you train it to do everything else the same way.
Oh, wow. And where's your book for sale at?
It's available on my website, thelogicaldog.com. It's $10. That's all it is. Just so
yeah, very reasonable.
Yes, yeah, it's thelogicaldog.com, and you go to training products, and then you look under books, and it's there.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you can get it there. And as I said, I will send anyone who asks me can get the first 10 chapters for free.
Yeah, that sounds like a great deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so.
I always like to have a call to action in my episodes. So I'm wondering if you have a call to action to people for people.
Is that not a call to action?
That is a call to action, actually.
Yes.
So your call to action is, hey,
You
email me. And not
email me
only,
and I'll send you a book. I'll send you part of a book, I should say.
yeah, that sounds great.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to tell the listeners before we go?
Well, I think that the best thing to do is every dog benefits from training. Every person benefits from having their dog trained. And training your dog does not mean that you don't love them. You can hug and you can kiss and you can cuddle with your dog and still have it trained to do what you want. Don't be embarrassed by your dog's behavior. Do something about it.
So true. I should have asked you, do you have a section in your book about how to crate train a dog?
I do not. It's all about training them in to do things rather than. My premise is that if you're buying the book, the dog is already being potty trained. So if you want to learn how to potty train, you go to my website, and I have it pee and poop what to do when things go wrong. Is on the
but
website.
crate training.
It is in there. Crate training.
Oh, okay.
So that's because crate's a wonderful tool. But no, I just did the book is basic training, which is what I will send to the people, but it also includes 50 tricks. 50 things to do with your dog. And your dog can be a useful member of the family, saying things like, you can train your dog to put its own toys away. You can train your dog to find your car keys, which is what I did because I could never find my car keys, so the dog can find them. And the dog was easier to find than the car keys were. And things like training your dog to put the laundry in the washing machine. Nothing wrong with having a dog. Train your dog to bring the shopping in, so you don't have to carry the shopping. All these things can be trained.
That sounds great. Well, really, thank you for being on the show. It was a great
I've
conversation.
enjoyed talking to you. I'm hoping that I didn't talk too much. So
not at all. Take care.
Okay, thank you very much.